download this into another thing because I'm running out of room on my computer. So maybe in the next 5, I'll stop it and then do it. Okay, I'll continue here. Daniel then said, I can't believe you'd think that about me. You look and sound like you were born right here in America and would know the psychology of your fellow American, even if you are, what, 18? I mean, you'd think you'd know that non-Muslims men aren't the monsters the Quran makes us out to be. But here you are, actually thinking that lying evil book has us non-Muslims pegged, that we secretly stay up in the night, quote, biting our fingernails off in rage against you. It's not hatred, it's rage, according to the Quran. In rage of you, in rage against you. Man, I'm really surprised at you, Sally, or whatever the hell your name is. That girl is another total lie from the Quran that calls itself the clear signs. And again, I don't hate Muslims. And although I find you devastatingly attractive, guess who isn't going to lay one lustful hand on your curvy, sexy body because he's married and doesn't want to go against the commandment in the Torah that the Quran says is all his words. Oh, I'm sure. Sure. I'll be thinking about you from now on when I'm by myself. I'll probably fantasize about you to the point where I become myself at times. Solidly confused at what, on the verge, as if on the verge of asking what. Daniel smiled and said, hey, I'm Japanese. Well, half Japanese, anyway. The other half is Chinese and East Indian. Sally still looked confused. Daniel said, you never heard the expression turning Japanese? Well, good, because it's kind of racist. Daniel then said, what's your real name? Is it Kadisha or Aisha or Mohammedi? What? Sally looked down and said, Afifa. Really? Asked Daniel. You look more like an Ashadiya. Sally kind of smiled. Daniel went on with, but really, do you really have a family in Southern Cal? Sorry, but due to your taqiyya, well, you're lying for Allah, which Allah allows. I feel like I'm wasting my time asking you any question now. You now have a lot of work to do before I ever believe a single word from you ever again. It's not your fault. It's that evil religion you're enslaved in that allows no excuses, makes you a hypocrite thanks to Quran 328, 16106, Mo saying war is deceit. Sally asked, if you thought I was going to kill you, why did you offer to let me sleep in your truck? Daniel thought and said, I didn't know if you were going to kill me. Besides, I thought that if you were going to shoot me, you'd pick a time where you could escape. I actually was shocked that you tried to kill me now when a cop could come by and see that you'd have shot me in the back if you succeeded. I mean, hey, that was really not very bright. Poor planning, bad timing. I mean, what's a rapist doing up in a bunk, allowing the girl he's going to rape to let her have her gun and phone? You'd have a lot of explaining to do if you were successful and a cop was to show up now. Sally continued to look down with tears in her eyes. She didn't say anything, but I'm not supposed to have much time to wait after shooting you. Daniel looked. Daniel squinted. Wow, what do you mean? You don't have much time, said Sally, touching the truck's stick shift. She then lifted up her head slowly, looked into Daniel with teary eyes, and said, they're coming. Sally and Daniel turned toward the windshield and looked out into the darkness. This next story I'm about to read is called Leap of Faith. It was still dark as the van crossed the city of Twin Falls, well-known bridge. Twin Falls well-known bridge. Minutes after the crossing, Yeshua Yasser, oh excuse me, uh, Yusuf was Yeshua. Now it's Yusuf because even though I found that word, that name, Yeshua, Muslims don't call their kids Yeshua, so it's Yusuf, Yasser. Okay, minutes after crossing the bridge. Okay. Yeah. Yusuf Yasser started taking the van over a snowy dirt road that was very bumpy. One of the Muslims asked, "What if we attract attention, brother? What then?" Yusuf Yasser looked at the dirt road, tried to avoid rocks and potholes, and said, "There are many brothers now working in Twin Falls Police Department. I hear one of them is a very authoritative sheriff. He's like a sheriff. Get it? Sheriff? Some of the fellows laughed. Seriously, though, he is a sheriff, said Yasser. Muhammad Ziad Hura Jabir, the young-looking Muslim, asked, which means that if a kafir cop questions us, he should be able to come to our rescue. Minutes later, all the Muslims in the van were dragging Atif's lifeless body out of the van and carrying him to the edge of the canyon on the east side of the bridge. The eastern horizon was starting to light up a little as sunrise approached. "We better hurry, brothers," said Wali al-Din. "We are not running out of darkness." 10 minutes later, they were standing on the rim. After swinging Atif's body back and forth 4 times to give them the momentum to toss him deep into the canyon, they let go and hurled his body off the edge. But there was no splash in the darkness. Instead, there was a thud. They all looked over the edge and saw Atif's body on the edge of the ledge that was some feet lower, laying in the snow. "Now what?" asked Mehboob. "Good enough," said Yusuf Yasser, who had killed Atif. When they started walking back to the van, they saw lights coming. The group of Muslims felt fear as they hoped it was a cop car. Suddenly, a huge spotlight, as they hoped it wasn't a cop car. Suddenly, a huge spotlight lit up the van. It was a cop car. The car stopped about 20 feet from the van, and the cop inside started typing its license plate down into the computer. Yusuf Yasser felt sick. They all felt sick. "What are we going to do?" asked the young-looking Ziad, a feeling of panic setting in. "That van is stolen." Yusuf Yasser thought, then said, "We'll act like we'll act like we don't know English. That way, that we are new to America. That we came here to escape the hell that Egypt became when Kafir were afraid to be tourists there for fear of having their heads sawed off by bad Muslims." This will force the cup. This will force that cop to call one of our brothers in the Twin Falls Police Department to translate for us. As he is listening to us in Arabic, we will tell him that we bought the van off some guy who was in Twin Falls yesterday. Some guy of a job who said he needed the money. We'll say we bought it off him for a cheap 30,000 to help him out. That we then decided to pray at this canyon while the sun came up. So that's why he needed the money. We'll say we bought it off of him for a cheap 30,000. Yeah. Yeah. So that's when we came to this game. Yeah. That we then decided to pray at the canyon while the sun came up. So that's why we're here. And if he asks to see our identification, what then? Asked another to Yasser. We will tell our brother to translate into. We'll tell our brother to translate into English, and tell him that we are on a pilgrimage from Seattle to see the new mosque of Twin Falls. Said Yusuf Yasser with confidence. We'll tell him that he came all the way from Omaha to see it with us. And with that, they all walked nervously back to the van. They waved at the cop who was still in his car with the spotlight on the van. The cop got out of the car and said, "Hello there. Mind if I ask what you doing out here?" The whole of the group of Muslims shrugged and acted like they didn't know English. "Very well," said the cop. "If you really can't speak English, I can get you some terrorists, cops, Muslim cops, who will do the translation for me." And he went to his car to call for those who could do translating. As they waited, back at the rig, Daniel was outside trying to put on chains. The snow was preventing him from moving. He managed to get 2 chains on and was working on the third. As he tried to get the chain on, a sack of guns sat next to him. 2 of the guns were his, and the other was that of Sally used. It was the other that and the other one was what Sally used to try to kill him. After such an event, Daniel didn't want any weapons near her and told her to stay inside. Suddenly, when he was just about to be done with the 3rd chain, he heard a motor engine. But instead of coming from the south, like Sally said, they'd be coming from... the engine noise was coming from the other direction. Daniel stopped what he was doing and grabbed for his Glock. A couple of minutes later, he saw a spray of snow and lights. It was a snow removal truck, probably coming from Ely, clearing the snow off the road. Daniel hid the truck and waved at the guy clearing the snow. Yeah, at the guy. Oh, okay. At the guy clearing the snow. Yeah. The guy waved back. It was getting light as 3 cars following. It was getting light as 3 cars following the snow remover passed by. A few minutes later, the snowblower and cars disappeared into the distance. "Crap, I put on chains for nothing," shouted Daniel with anger. "I could have slept. Trucker's luck strikes again." And you know something? I think I'll end it right here. Yeah.